Welcome to the Supporting Young Hearts, the Heart to Heart series, a podcast to help support the emotional health and well-being of younger adults living with a heart condition, have had a heart event or heart-related surgery. The Heart Foundation acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respect to them and their cultures and elders past, present and future. I'm your host, Carly Weiner, a clinical psychologist working alongside the Heart Foundation with a special interest in young people and chronic health conditions. Throughout this series, we want to support, connect and inform you to help you best manage your heart health and emotional well-being related to the unique stage of life that you're in. For more information about what we discussed today, or if you need further support, please see links in the show notes or visit heartfoundation.org.au. In today's episode, we talk about those challenging conversations you can find yourself in, whether it's explaining your condition to others, talking to your boss, or even just dealing with others' opinions or advice. Yes, sharing is caring, but it's also important to set boundaries. We talk about how to navigate these conversations. We'll be joined by Cara Curan, who was born with a congenital heart condition and has since had 5 open heart surgeries and is waiting for a heart transplant. We also hear from Sophie, who also lives with a congenital heart condition and had her first open heart surgery when she was just 8 hours old. Sophie, Cara, thank you so much for joining us today on our episode around challenging conversations. So very much looking forward to hearing what you each have to say. I might start with you, Sophie. Tell us a little bit about you and the conditions that you manage.
So I was born with my heart condition. So I've got hyperplastic right ventricle syndrome. So pretty much the left and right ventricle were switched around when I was born. So I've had 3 open heart operations to fix that. Most of them I was under 6 for, so I don't really remember most of it. But I was also born with spina bifida, so that causes my muscles to be very weak, so I can't walk long distances, and it has a lot of effect on my bladder and bowel and just little things like that. Yeah, so I've had an extra 6 surgeries on my feet until my bladder for that as well. But I'm a disability worker and I'm currently studying community services as well.
Wow, so you're certainly managing a lot. Tell us a little bit about your experience in managing others and the conversations around some of the conditions you deal with.
I think for me, I've found it very difficult to manage conversations around telling people about my heart condition and all that sort of stuff, because I've been bullied ever since. For as long as I can remember, my whole school life I've been bullied for it. So for me, opening up to people and having those conversations were very difficult because there was that element of trust that I really struggled with. But with my boss and stuff now, like I've got the most amazing boss. She's so easy to talk to. She's so understanding. But yeah, there's definitely been times where I've been very hesitant to open up about my conditions. But yeah, I guess it's just that element of trust that I've really found difficult for. So yeah.
Yeah, and you've had a really awful experience of being bullied, which sounds really terrible. So what was that like for you? How did you handle it when you were younger?
I really struggled through high school and primary school and high school. It got worse at high school. I think everyone just gets meaner at high school. But yeah, I really struggled. I had to change my whole group of friends. So I literally went into year 7 with a whole bunch of friends that I thought were my friends. And at the end of year 7, I had to pretty much change my whole friendship group, which was very difficult because I already had a lot going on. So I don't know. I've seen counsellors and psychologists and stuff over the years, and that's really helped me. But once I did get a good group of friends, that really helped. But for me, opening up to my family and just having their support, I think probably helped the most.
It's something that we know that having supports around you are so important in terms of not only managing but also recovery. So yeah, it sounds like you lent on your family quite a bit. How did you then go about finding a new friendship group that were supportive and weren't mean to you in the end?
I think for me it was a matter of I had a lot of friends in the end that actually also had other conditions as well. So that kind of really helped. I felt like they really understood me for who I was. Yeah, a lot of my friends, like they had other conditions themselves. So it was really, I think that kind of helped me and find comfort. But I don't know, I kind of just got to the point where I just be myself, and if they liked me, they liked me. If not, well, I can't change who I am. And yeah, that was up to kind of them. I kind of just got a real attitude, I guess, about it eventually of I can't change the person I am. So yeah.
So finding people that not only understood but had a lot of compassion for what you were going through.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did that look like? How did people treat you differently when you knew that it was a positive friendship for you?
I think just being supportive and being there for obviously the good and the bad, even just helping me get around the school, even that was difficult, but just having, those sort of friends there, even just little things like that, they really helped me with, and they were sticking up for me and stuff like that when needed. Yeah, that sort of stuff.
You have a very different attitude now to friends, and you said something like, oh, I'm just me and I don't care, and it's sort of on them whether they like me or not. Yeah. So how does that change your attitude towards socialising and towards meeting people?
I think I had to get to the stage where obviously I can't change how I was born. I can't change the circumstances that I've been dealt with. I've just had to live with it, and if people weren't getting that or understanding that or accepting that, I can't change their attitude or thoughts about me. So I've had to kind of just be resilient in that way, and just kind of just keep living, because I think the more I dwelled on it, the worse I got, the more I fell into that depression and anxiety, and that wasn't helping me. So I had to kind of get, I guess, that attitude about it, to be able to live my life and to live positively and not focus on the negatives. So, yeah.
So you learnt that connection was so important, that you didn't want to be isolated and you wanted to find people and form those really close friendships and supports there.
Yeah, definitely.
You've spoken a bit to me about when to open up and when to share things, whether it's about yourself or whether it's about your conditions. How do you go about that now?
As I said before, I've got the most amazing boss. It was real easy with the boss that I've got. But previously I did struggle with my previous job of opening up, because I actually worked in a primary school as a teacher's aide, and I found that a lot more difficult because I wasn't just opening up to my employees but also the kids in the school, because kids ask a lot of why questions. So for me that was really difficult, because it was really hard to, one, explain it, but two, I was still in that kind of stage of real, I guess, little bit of self-conscious of like opening up and telling people, because I wasn't still able to trust people at that stage. So I did really struggle now, but I'm a lot more open now. I've got to the stage where I have to tell people, especially bosses and stuff, because I'm not going to get the help that I need, especially in workplace and study as well, that I need to do the best that I can. So, yeah.
Yeah, so people won't understand if they don't know, and you see that as a reason to share people to get the support that you need.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about sharing information with kids, because as you know, kids will just ask whatever. So what's that like when you're feeling a bit self-conscious and unsure yourself and these kids are asking these unfiltered questions to you?
It's still very difficult, even now. So I volunteer on a Sunday at church. Even then, like, it's really difficult because they ask a lot of why questions, and I kind of just really try and simplify it and just say, this is kind of what I've been dealt and this is what I've kind of been born with, that everyone's kind of born differently, and they usually get it once I say that. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of why questions, but yeah, I'm probably, it's funny as it is, I'm more nervous to actually tell the kids and stuff, because I think adults get it a lot more, but the kids are just, once you say something, they just ask all the why questions to go about it, and I'm not really comfortable explaining that to them. So, yeah, it's a little bit more difficult in that sort of sense, but yeah.
That's when you pull the because I said so to kids.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's really good advice, and I'm so glad that you've got a really good employment experience now that your boss is understanding and you've been able to share with them what's going on for you and what your needs are. I want to jump to Cara now because I know that you've had different experiences when it comes to your boss and employment, and maybe a not so favourable experience at first. So what can you tell us about what was going on with your last employment and the support you did or did not receive then?
Yeah, sure. So I've recently changed jobs, and the job that I'm in now, I've only actually been in for about a month, and they've been so accommodating and just couldn't sing their praises enough. But my employment previously, I found it really hard because I struggled sometimes to open up because there's a fine line, not that I want people to be understanding, but I don't want to be treated differently. And my last employer, they just, I tried to open up a few times and it was just it didn't seem like it was a good enough reason, and I just called it quits.
That can be really hard to make that call because it's really difficult to know what's reasonable from their end and your end. So what was it for you that said, actually, this isn't good enough from my employer?
I was quite lucky in a sense. So I was born with a heart condition, and to be honest, it's never really stopped me from doing anything. So I've never really had to have that difficult chat. Like anytime there was an issue, I just had surgery and I bounced straight back. And I had my 5th surgery about 4 years ago, and I didn't bounce straight back, and I've since then gone into heart failure. So this is just over the last 4 years is the first time I've actually had to navigate the workforce with opening up and divulging info about my medical history, but without wanting to be treated differently. So I actually, after my surgery, I entered back into the workforce, and my workplace that I got straight out of that, I was with them for 3 years, and they were with me every step of the way of finding out my surgery hadn't worked and being diagnosed with the failure and so on. And they were so accommodating. So I found it very foreign to go to the next employer who wasn't. And I think there was just a moment where I just thought I had enough going on. I tried to approach somebody in management, and the response I got, I just thought was highly unprofessional and almost borderline discrimination a little bit. And I think I just got to that point where I was like, you know what, life's too short. I'm tapping out pretty much.
Yeah. Well done you, because a lot of people would be really terrified to not only have that conversation to take it to management, but to make the call. And I don't know if you're in this boat, but employment is your foundation of security and finances and identity in a lot of ways. So based on your experience, what advice would you give to someone who might be thinking about having a conversation with their employer, say their needs aren't being met? How do you set up a meeting? What do you want to get out of it?
That was one thing. I'm not actually one who opens up very easily. So for me to actually even get to a point where I wanted to schedule a meeting, because a few things, not only to discuss my health, but due to my health worsening, my work, not work ethic, but I was failing in little areas in my job itself. So to get the courage to do that, I actually was quite proud of myself, and I wrote dot points in a notebook of things so I didn't go off track, and so I covered everything. And even though the meeting didn't go, or I didn't get an outcome that I wanted, I was very proud of myself because that's a big step for me. I've never actually done anything like that before. Even when I was studying and in school and stuff, there was times and moments where I struggled quite a bit, or things didn't make sense, or whatever. I had similar situations, and it's only now that I've realised, maybe that was due to my heart condition, like just little things that you reflect on. It's like, maybe that's why I've struggled with that throughout life.
So when you are coping or managing a heart condition, or maybe anticipating an event or surgery, what might be some things that people want to ask for from their employer?
One big thing I've learned, especially the last 4 years, I've learnt myself more to be open and honest. For me, for example, I always say that I don't want to be treated differently, and I will speak up if I need to, if I'm having an off day or I need time off. But I just feel if you are trying to figure out how to speak to an employer or navigate that path, just honesty is the best policy. That's the biggest thing, and just being open, because at the end of the day, they're just people like you. So I just think it's better to just be open. As hard as that is, I struggled with that a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, so being open about where you're at, but also what you might need and what some requests you have. Whether or not they meet it or that's possible is up to them. But you're saying lay it out on the table and see what happens.
Yeah, like when I was going through my heart failure diagnosis with my employer when I was with them, I just kept them updated. Like, I wouldn't give them too much information, but I'd keep them updated throughout the process. So at least then they knew what was going on too. So then then I actually got to a stage with them, I could just literally text my boss and saying today's not a good day. And there was no issues, no qualms. I could just work from home or take the day off. Like, again, I understand not all employers are like that, but it just from keeping those communication lines open and just keeping them updated with how it's going, I just found that worked for me in that instance.
The Heart Foundation is proud to present a free support program, My Heart, My Life. It's a free support journey including resources, personalised contact and guidance for those who have experienced a heart attack or angina episode. Head to the Heart Foundation website or our show notes to learn more about My Heart, My Life. So I know, Cara, you have a lot of experience around courageous conversations and challenges in speaking with others. I want to jump to family members a little bit with you, because you've had to navigate a few different family members and extended family within keeping them informed, whilst also understanding your own diagnosis. So walk us a little bit through how your heart journey progressed and how you managed to not only understand it yourself, but communicate it to others.
Yeah, sure. So my heart journey started from the day I was born. I was born with a congenital heart defect called pulmonary atresia, and I had by the age of 6 months, I'd had 3 surgeries. Then I was fine. I actually was pretty blessed. I lived a pretty normal childhood. My parents never really stopped me from doing anything. I just got told, if you're tired, sit down, and if your hands and lips are blue and you're not cold, tell mum. And that got me, like, I used to have checkups and that, but I literally just had the thought that I had a scar and I was sick when I was a kid. So in the most recent years, so then I had a surgery when I was 21 and I bounced straight back. And after that surgery, I actually ended up travelling and working overseas and just living life. And my most recent surgery, which was 4 years ago, that has actually sparked quite a few difficult conversations, and not only just for me, like hitting home for me, but for my family as well, because it's as silly as it sounds, and this sounds absolutely ridiculous, even though I've had a heart condition my whole life, it's only literally just dawned on me in the last, since this surgery, because it sent me into failure and I had such a pretty horrific recovery, and now I'm needing a transplant. So that has actually sprung up on me and my family and friends a bit. So as well as my family trying to come to terms with that, it's also myself. I think I was in denial for a good year or two, because I was it was a whole new realization that I was actually different, and it was almost like I was grieving the person that I used to be. And obviously because I'd done so well, it was really hard. I've found it was quite hard for my mum, my sister, my dad.
Yeah. And so post-awareness, what's it been like sharing, your status really with others, because it's changed quite a lot in the recent years?
Yeah, it's been really good. And that's one positive thing I will say about social media, because back even when I was 21, there was no Facebook, there was no support groups like this. So I think social media has been good because I've managed to connect with people like Sophie. I've connected and become really good friends with people in Canada and the UK, and I think it's good because everybody's been able to share their stories, and it makes you feel not alone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And similar to what Sophie was saying, that once you find a community, then the conversations keep going. And it sounds like it's more natural to then speak to other people outside that community who might not have a heart condition, and it feels okay for you.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about the flip side of challenging conversations, because I know you've had some experience of medical professionals or your team not having conversations you wish they had with you.
Yeah. Me and my partner were also advised, your heart's in quite a fragile state. They made me go get a marina because they said you can't even afford to have a whoopsie with a pregnancy. They even went to the extent of saying that I wouldn't survive if I was to fall pregnant. Like, I'm 36 now, and it sounds silly. Maybe I should have asked earlier on, but at no point in time did anybody from my cardiac team tell me that my heart condition would hinder my chances to become a mother or start a family. And I just wish that some conversations, like, not that I would have gone off and run off and had a family when I was 18, but I probably would have thought about it and looked at freezing my eggs or looked at other options. And I just find now, like I said, I'm 36, but I've missed that boat, that sailed, sort of thing. So it's been really hard to come to terms with that, and I've accepted it now. But for other women and other young girls with congenital heart disease, or even young women that just have a heart event and the structure of their heart changes, that should be factored into the conversation, I feel.
So part of this is about not only raising awareness about what goes on for you for your heart condition, but all the other things that are important in your life as well.
Yeah, I was given no help. I was just, oh, by the way, you don't think about having a family because it'll kill you, sort of thing. And it was like, oh, okay. It was like they dropped a bomb and then you were just meant to deal with it. Whereas if I had been informed earlier on, like I said, I probably would have thought about things a bit better and maybe looked at other options or putting something on freeze. So, I could look at surrogacy or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, just to be informed about what your options are. Should things escalate, we're not there yet. But
yeah, I found too, there's like I said, I probably should have asked, but sometimes when you go to these doctor's appointments, you're so overwhelmed, and I don't know about other people, but I find even when I was going and I was getting a report that was fine, when I was a lot healthier, even the language that they use, sometimes it's just so hard to digest that I've learnt to write my questions down now, but there are times where you just you get out of an appointment and you're like, oh, shoot, I should have asked that. Oh, or you'll be a week later, oh, I didn't ask that.
It's hard, isn't it, to have a clear head in going into these appointments?
And I've found too, when you go in for an appointment and you get, for example, me and my partner, I had my cardiologist appointment this week on Tuesday, and we got dropped a bit of a bombshell that they're going to transfer or refer me to the transplant clinic down in Sydney. And sometimes you get information that you're not prepared for, so it floors you, and then everything you had that you thought, or everything that you wanted to ask just goes out the window because you're like, oh, okay. You're trying to process something that you didn't even realise was in the picture.
You've had so much experience in this area, and where are you at now with asking questions, challenging yourself to maybe have conversations that you would find difficult?
The last 4 years have learned to grab my lady balls and learn to speak up and be my biggest advocate, because So when I had my surgery 4 years ago, I knew straight away as soon as I came out or came to and out of ICU, your own body. I knew straight away that something wasn't right. Like I just didn't feel good. They kept telling me I was just anxious, I was nervous because I just was so ill, and I kept getting told, everything looks fine, it's just anxiety, I think you've just got yourself worked up. And anyway, cut a long story short, in that time me and my partner had moved to the Gold Coast because we're trying to get on with life, and I thought, maybe, and it started to give me a few mental health issues because I thought, everybody's saying I'm fine, maybe it's all in my head. And then it actually took 14 months of hospital visits, emergency visits, and I had so many doctors telling me I just had anxiety, you just need to calm down. It turned out I actually was in heart failure.
Wow.
And if I hadn't have advocated for myself, I probably would not be here. So I found that really hard in the fact that I never had an issue with trusting doctors or hospitals because it's been such a routine part of my life. And I never had a fear. And now, because as a result of that, I get mass anxiety, panic attacks. Or because I think like I've had to fight so much to be heard that, it's almost like a relationship. It's almost like that trust is divulged a little bit. But as a result of that, it has taught me to speak up and have those difficult conversations, and to know that it's just because you're a patient, you have the right, know that you have the right to validate how you're feeling and to speak up when you feel there's something wrong or you're not getting answers. And I found it really difficult. I don't know if Sophie's the same. I struggled with doing that at first because every time I'd gone to the hospital, because I'd always done the heart thing since I was a kid, Mum always asked those questions. So now that I'm an adult, it's taken me this long, I'm 36 now, to actually have the balls and be like, all right, Mum's not coming with me to this appointment. I've got to and fully understand my condition too, because I just used to, when you're a kid, you just switch off. I just used to get the little electrodes, have an echo and get a lollipop at the end. I never listened. So it was even just fully understanding exactly the condition I was born with and the language that they're using, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You've been through so much and you've been told no a lot and let down a lot by other people. And through that, something you said before is what I love, when you said you have the right. You have the right to be told things. You have the right to make friends and have supportive family members and people understood there. So I think that's a really powerful message.
Yeah, and I actually really felt that. This sounds so warped, but after I came out of my appointment on Tuesday, as heavy as the information got, and most people would have been devastated, this sounds so weird, I actually left that appointment really happy and positive because I actually felt validated for why I'd been feeling so crap. And because now there's finally a plan in place. It's not I feel like I'm finally where the ball's slowly rolling to get a plan and I was heard. So it just, even if it is crappy news or it's just, you just want to be told everything. So you get a clear understanding, because there's nothing worse I have found and mentally struggled with when you're not getting answers and you feel so unwell or you feel so confused about something and you're just not getting the answers or not understanding what's happening to you in your body. And I found that I struggled with a lot because it's scary.
Yeah, and you've had your own experience validated through some pretty awful news, and no doubt that would be really mixed.
Yeah.
I want to jump to Sophie to finish off. And
Yes.
Cara raised the point of having lady balls. And I want to just ask Sophie, what gives you lady balls or the courage to have these challenging conversations?
I'm still learning to grab my lady balls in a sense. I've only just kind of started to go to doctor's appointments and stuff like that by myself without mum and dad, and to learn about my heart condition in and out. I think I've always, like Cara was saying, I always felt like I switched off when I was a kid, so they always just kind of spoke to my parents and I wasn't really involved in the conversations a lot of the time. So it's only been maybe the last couple of years that I've actually been really taking the initiative for myself and actually going to doctor's appointments by myself, and have to be a big kid now that I'm not at the children's and those sort of things. So
Yeah,
I'm still learning.
That's one, and that's okay. That's okay to still be learning and figuring things out. And it sounds like leaning on your supports has been really helpful for you to continue to grow those balls.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much to both of you. You've got such important messages to share, and I encourage you to keep having those conversations, keep connecting, keep inspiring others to say things that they might be, too timid or not comfortable saying yet. So no doubt it won't be the last we hear from you, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Heart to Heart series, brought to you by the National Heart Foundation. Special thanks to the Supporting Young Hearts Advisory Group, who help guide the work of what we do, and the members of the Supporting Young Hearts community who have openly and fearlessly shared their stories and experiences to help others through their heart journey. This podcast was made possible by the Victorian Government Let's Stay Connected grant and was developed with you for you. For more information about what we talk about today, or if you need further support, please see the links in the show notes, call the Heart Foundation's helpline on 131112 or visit heartfoundation.org.au. Advice and information given by the Heart Foundation is for general information and education purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider if you have or suspect you have a health problem.
This podcast was produced in collaboration with Joy, Australia's Rainbow Community Media Organisation. For more information on Joy and our services, visit joy.org.au.